What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 663 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags of the Week. We're breaking down everything that happened in the world of pro wrestling we feel like talking about at the very least. Rumors, news, gossip, TV recap, all sorts of different things, all across the board. WWE, AEW, a little New Japan, and maybe some other things too. If you don't know who we are, I am your host as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by my usual co-hosts here, Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Robert E. Felice.
Heyo.
And of course, not only do we want to express our opinions about everything that we're going to be talking about here, but we want to know what you have to say too. So keep in mind, we have a Discord server where you can chat it up throughout the week at any point about any different topic, lots of different channels there. So, voice your opinions on that front. Also, leave comments below on YouTube. Helps us out on the algorithm, as well as the like button and the share button. Double check that you are subscribed to this channel as well. If you're listening elsewhere, there are plenty of other ways for you to leave your comments on smarkatmoment.com, or you can send tweets or post things on Facebook. We have the Facebook group, the Mega Maniacs. We've got the page on Facebook, multiple pages on Facebook, too many pages on Facebook for that matter. But if you are over there on YouTube, then there are a couple other buttons that you should click on too. The thanks button, toss a little spare change our way, keep the lights on here. Join the YouTube channel membership as well. It's the same thing as the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, or you're on the YouTube channel membership, you've got the Darkcast tier, the Pick Your Poison tier. You have even $1 a month is greatly appreciated. And also the merchandise options on Redbubble and TeePublic for Smark Out Moment, A Mango Teas, not trees, A Mango Teas, and Fanboys Anonymous. It all goes back to watering the roots of a mango tree and help keep my sanity from plunging to, downward spiral as it is. But sometimes you can slow the descent, and all that stuff is definitely noticed every single time I get any kind of a boost on any of those. It makes my day. So keep that in mind if you have the ability to do so. And we'll talk about some other plugs later on of some more specific things, but generally speaking, go back and check out the Darkcast that I put up the other day. And if you're not on that tier, you won't be able to see it. So join the tier. That's the whole point. Let's get into these hot tags. Not the most scorching week of hot tags where it's like, ooh, the craziest gossip in the world, or the, oh my God, we're going to talk for 3 hours because the amount of topics are, each one of them could be a whole video in and of themselves, but there are some pretty interesting things here. And we got people with backstage issues. We've got some really odd team names that have been putting out there. We got a trademark. We got this announcement from AEW All In. And we're going to kind of run through the gamut here. So let's start off with one of our old trusty things, a WWE trademark. Fatal Influence was trademarked the other day on I think it was the 12th, 13th.
The 13th.
There's no real indication of what this is. In typical fashion, the trademarks are, intended coverage for, and then it lists like a million things where they could do merchandise options and programming this and media that and blah, blah, blah. The short version of this seems like it says, internet, commercial, online services, broadcast media, including television and radio, wrestling exhibitions, blah, blah, blah. It gives me more of an impression that this is for a pay-per-view or some kind of show name, since it does mention sporting events, fan club services, all that, rather than focusing more on like apparel and all that they've had in the past. So Fatal Influence, and whatever it is, I mean, sometimes they don't really use these things, like with that global localization thing that we had before. They never really put that out there. It wasn't like WWE presents global localization. I think they might have used the term once, but Fatal Influence could be one of those, or it could be the next thing that we know. For all we know, it's going to be like WWE Bad Blood, Fatal Influence or something. I don't like the term without knowing exactly what it is. I think it sounds kind of boring and flat. You could go with Fatal Blank in a lot of ways that it could be fun. Fatal 4-Way, that's something that they do all the time. Fatal Fallout. It doesn't have to be a alliteration, but you could do Fatal Blank, and it can sound fun. Influence to me doesn't sound like a pay-per-view name, and it's got a little bit of that like kind of boring global localization feel to it, to me at least. I wouldn't want to watch like a pay-per-view called, or a premium live event, PLE. At least Randy Orton has said recently that he doesn't like calling them PLEs, he calls them pay-per-views. I wouldn't want to be like, oh, let's go watch that pay-per-view of WWE tense skirmish. What do you guys think about Fatal Influence? How do you think we're going to see that in the future?
I don't mind the term. I don't think we're going to see it. I'll say that right now. Because I think it was probably a backup name for another trademark and thing that actually saw happen that we're probably going to talk about in a second, the Pure Fusion Collective.
Yeah, I mean, I would just assume with the term Fatal Influence, it was going to be a tag team or a stables name. I didn't really think that a show would be called that or anything else in that regard. It just sounds like a tag team now.
I mean, tag team name, that's not as bad, but it's still not something that I'm super duper into. But they did trademark this around the same time as Pure Fusion and the Pure Fusion Collective. And that brings up another trademark and stable name. That is the name of Pure Fusion Collective, I should specify. That's the name of the trio of Shayna Baszler, Zoey Stark, and Sonya Deville. So it seems like they were at least going with potentially the idea of Fatal Influence could have been in there, Pure Fusion by itself, or Pure Fusion Collective. Out of the three of those, I don't like any of them, but I do like Pure Fusion better than Pure Fusion Collective. And I think Fatal Influence, if you throw that into the mix there, I would have probably been like, why don't we go with Fatal Fusion? It's not my favorite thing in the world, but out of all those, I really just Pure Fusion Collective. If you really look at what that means, that's total cohesive. Why is that their name?
They're fused.
They're totally a group. That's a group.
Well, I mean, if that's not the most straightforward thing and honest WWE, then I don't know what you're looking for.
I mean, you might as well just call them like group.
I think it's fine. I think naming something is better than not naming something. And we've seen, I mean, for fuck's sake, Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark were just Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark, even though they were teaming for like months on end. I'd rather things be named than they not be named.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any sort of affinity to the name the Pure Fusion Collective, but as someone who does do the power rankings every single week, it beats having to write Shayna Baszler, Zoey Stark, and Sonya Deville every single time they're on that, which they did do for a little while. Now, basically, pretty much every single section of the power rankings was saying, give them a fucking team name. I don't want to write this over and over and over again. Yeah, I'd say I think the pure fusion aspect of it is to try and jump on the fact that they're kind of like portrayed as real wrestlers in the most modern sense, in terms of they're the, they just get it done in the ring. They're really like big personalities off screen. I mean, you said like, oh, you might as well call it group. I could totally imagine a stable that Zoey Stark's in being just called group.
I mean, there's something to be said about a thing like that would be funny. I had I don't know the specifics about this because it's so long ago. My dad in college, apparently his like softball team or whatever was called The, because he like had some of the same stupid punny humor that I have.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
definitely got it from him more than my mom. My mom can't tell a joke like that whatsoever. But he had convinced his team to go by the name The, so that whenever they would print the newspapers of like that they would win or something like that, it would be like The beats whatever. It would always seem like it would be like a typo or whatever. So I'm sure if I were in like WWE creative, at some point I would pitch, even if it's just like a joke around the lunch table, where everybody's kind of brainstorming about why don't we just call the group. I probably would have, and then been like, no, I'm not really too serious about this, but then eventually it would grow on me.
You gotta shield it. You gotta like come up with some acronym for group.
And then that's when somebody goes, I got it, PCB. At least we're not in that front anymore, where it's not like Deville, Stark, and Baszler. We can call them DBS, and then just be like, that's it.
I mean, if you went for an acronym, I'd call them the Lethal Enigmatic Sisters.
Zisters, right?
Exactly.
And then they're like, no, that's the Z is for Zoey. What are you talking about? There were a lot of nicknames that people were tossing out there that I thought was funny that would kind of alluded to that idea. And I mean, yeah, that's something you gotta play fast and loose with, but that was not the right term I should have used right then. The Pure Fusion Collective, at least, that's just, I can't imagine anybody really sticking to that name. And we've had a lot of bad stable names over the years where it's kind of almost more likely that they're going to give them a shit name at this point. I'm still not the biggest fan of American Made. I don't think that team names like the Welcoming Committee were all that great. I can't think of many actually now over the past few years in WWE specifically, if I'm going with. I mean, there's, outside of WWE, there's lots of good and bad names too, but like, ATN Down Under, like, yeah, sure, that's fine for a temporary thing. And things like Chase U, it's a gimmick, so it makes sense. Damage Control, totally fine. But when you get into like New Catch Republic, I'm not thinking that. They liked doing New Blank for a little bit there. And the Pride, I guess we don't have Bobby Lashley anymore. Bobby Lashley and MVP are now moved to the alumni section, so they're definitely gone. It's just the Street Profits with BFAB. They probably should just get rid of BFAB at this point too. But yeah, it's weird like that. And then on top of it, there's another name that had been tossed out this week, which we might see in the future. But it seems like they might have had second thoughts about this because they didn't trademark it. They didn't put the name out there for anything. WrestleVotes had been tossing out the idea that the Judgment Day was going to be renamed, actually, with this whole booting out the Terror Twins, Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley, and that they were, for some reason, going to go by the name Street Trash. How does that make any sense when Damian Priest was the one that Gunther was calling Street Trash?
Yeah, that was dumb. Like, that could be Fatal Influence, sure. The fatal influence of Liv Morgan, the fatal influence of Chicken Tendies. I don't know, but like that's okay. Like, I'm okay with them changing the Judgment Day name. I actually think they should. Because it's almost comical at this point what Judgment Day started as and what they currently look like. So I'm okay with them changing the name. I'm not okay with calling anything that isn't like a 1990s stable featuring the Nasty Boys Street Trash.
It would need to be, that's fantasy book this. The Nasty Boys, Roadkill.
Roadkill, that's a...
Repo Man.
Duke the Dumpster Trophy.
Duke the Dumpster, there you go. That's the perfect, he could be the leader of the thing. Who else would be good in Street Trash? What's the name of the people that were basically the Nasty Boys, but not? I'm blanking on them names. They were in WCW.
Public Enemy.
I think they're Public Enemy, but they're not. Like, they're different things. We've done this with you before. I think they're different things entirely.
Yeah, they're ersatz Nasty Boys that don't look quite as offensive, but made less of an impact on pro wrestling. I showed
don't look quite as offensive. They were white guys appropriating black culture. What do you...
I mean, that part's offensive, but I mean, if you just saw their faces, it wasn't. Because I showed the Nasty Boys to Caroline a couple months ago. I forget what the point was. Oh, that's what it was. Oh, this is really mean. There's a character on a TV show. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to be too super mean. But a character on a TV show that we were watching, and I was like, "Wow, that woman looks a lot like one of the Nasty Boys."
God damn it! I don't know what you're watching, but damn it.
I'm gonna show it to you guys. I'm gonna find a picture of this.
Since we got on some random aside about the Nasty Boys, like, they had a perfect look for their time in wrestling. Tell me those two don't look like the human incarnations of Bebop and Rocksteady. Like,
oh, they totally do.
They're totally perfect 90s side villains that you beat up.
Where can I find the name of this actress? And okay, there we go. I'm gonna show this to you guys in a group chat. And you tell me if I'm right or wrong that this person does not look like one of the Nasty Boys.
Like, is this like the character's persona, or are you just being mean?
I'm just being mean. All right, so the one on the Skype's not letting me send this. Come on, the one on the right of this picture. Again, the only reason I'm not saying it on the podcast is I don't want to be mean because I'm just flat out bullying this person for the way that they look.
Oh God, what's wrong with you?
Is that a yes?
What's wrong with you? I'm leaving it at that.
They could be in Street Trash. Yeah, Street Trash. That's not the name that I would have gone with for the Judgment Day in any fashion whatsoever, because it's like that was Damian Priest's thing. And if Damian Priest had a separate group where it was like him and a couple people, and they did kind of like the Out the Mud thing, then okay, maybe you can get away with the Street Trash thing and just be like, oh, this whole group is Street Trash, but we fight with like with honor and blah blah blah, and we're gonna basically do the Out the Mud thing, but on the main roster. Sure, but it made no sense to me whatsoever, this idea that would be the Finn Balor group. They would not call themselves after the insult that Gunther had for Damian Priest. So I think WrestleVotes got their information mixed up. But they claimed that there was actually like merchandise already made up for this and stuff, so it might be repurposed, and it might be like that's like a subdivision of them, or it might be
or something.
Right. This new version of the Judgment Day is made up of Street Trash or something. They're gonna have to figure out some way to justify it though, because that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But
now I did briefly think to myself, I wonder if this is like information given to this person's source to try to weed them out. Because I'm like, that's such a bad name. Like,
it could very well be that. Good. That makes sense. That way it gets out there. They know who leaked it. They figure out who's been talking to WrestleVotes. Because WrestleVotes has been around for a long time. Most of these people that have their scoops tend to kind of be like that Dolphin something or other that was on Reddit for a few years. It was like a 3-year thing, I think. And then once they had that big mass layoff situation with 2020, I believe is when they had gotten released, they were like, oh, like I was a part of that, so I can't give any scoops anymore. And WrestleVotes had a pretty solid run so far. A couple of the other people, what was the other person that had been recently, like, they were doing a really, really good job with their leaks, and then they just sort of dried up. They were the one that had like the Bailey playing with the cat backstage thing and all. BWE?
I don't remember the name of that, but that was a very like successful Twitter app. It was Twitter, right?
Yeah.
I remember the whole Bailey in Saudi Arabia with the cat.
Mm-hmm.
And then that
BWE or something.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we are going to see, maybe not. I don't know, but that is not my favorite group name. Neither is Pure Fusion Collective nor Fatal Influence, but keep an eye on all those, and they'll eventually pop up maybe on the tag team list or something on Smark at the moment. Let's see. What are some other topics we can bounce to now?
Well, this is a sad one, but it did just get confirmed, so let's get out of the way. Afa of the Wild Samoans has passed away.
Oh, now it's confirmed.
Samu, the head shrinker, his son, confirmed it.
So at the beginning of this, before we had gotten started, that was a potential hot tag to talk about how people had reported that before it had been confirmed. But now I guess, you wait an extra 20 minutes and that ends up being a different story. That's sad to hear. Obviously, we had lost, we being, fandom and, not being a part of the Anoa'i family, but Sika had passed away just... Was it 2 months ago? Wasn't that long ago. But both Afa and Sika had been battling a lot of health issues recently. And I know that there was confusion even when it came to Sika's passing, that people had reported that Afa had passed. And now, one right after the other, both the Wild Samoans are gone. And
less than 2 months, June 25th.
Yeah, I thought it was about like a month and a half, 2 months ago.
That's rough, man.
That sucks. It always sucks when you lose anybody whatsoever, but when you have like 2 losses in a family back to back and 2 like patriarchs in a lot of ways too, there's something to be said about when people pass quickly after each other. You hear these stories, I'm going to get all deep now, about like people where like their wife passes and then like a month later, that woman's husband passes too or something. I've long been like, that probably would happen to me. Like I'm way too sentimental, and every time I feel any kind of a loss, it's like you might as well just have ripped out a big chunk of what I've got going on and I'll never get it back type. Maybe Afa and Sika, that could have been a big factor in that. They were dealing with issues for a long, long time. I don't remember exactly what Afa's age was, but, he was up there. It's not like 81. He was a spring chicken. And
81.
81? Yeah, we could be so lucky to reach 81. I could be lucky to reach next year. But... to paraphrase the exact same thing that we tend to say every single time, obviously our condolences go out to the Anoa'i family, all the friends and the fans of Afa Anoa'i. Let's give the breakdown. What are your go-to memories? What's your...
Well, this one's really hard because Callum doesn't go back and watch old wrestling. I've seen a little bit of the Wild Samoans, but for me, I think more than anything, I just think about the real influence that they've had on wrestling, and specifically, like we talk about heads of the tables and all this stuff, but the Afa and Sika are the start of all of it, and to lose them both so abruptly, that's got to be tough on the family. But everybody uses the table reference, but they set that table very well for generations and generations. And I think that's a hell of a legacy in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't really have similar to when we talked about Sika. It's just mainly just a case of just offering condolences to me because I don't watch any of that stuff.
But it's crazy and it's beautiful in a lot of ways because yes, while this family was big and we all knew, it wasn't like Yokozuna was out there with the head shrinkers and that's how he got, really famous. it's really beautiful to me that they got to see this time where their family, literally the whole thing, is the story that is driving WWE, and I think that that's really special that they got to see it.
If you could book a Wild Samoans one last match, what do you guys think you would go with? My go-to is just to, it's the simplest thing possible, but it's Wild Samoans versus the Usos.
I'm throwing the head shrinkers in there as well. Yeah, I think that'd be a really fun match. Lots of generational clashes there with Rikishi and his sons, and Afa and his son, and I throw the head shrinkers in there. I'd say, Tribal Combat, make it a no DQ, and then I think everybody has fun watching these guys be tough at each other.
Anybody come up to your mind, Callum?
Just the Usos. So that's why I didn't bother putting an answer out there.
So, we're probably going to see some kind of a tribute tonight on SmackDown about Anoa'i, and maybe some kind of video package of some sort if they have that. They probably have that ready to go, realistically. So, bad news on that front, unfortunately. Always bad to hear some kind of a passing or whatever. Let's transition let's go to a New Japan story here. Updates on the G1 Climax and the semifinals now?
Yeah, so both blocks ended a couple of days ago, and then yesterday they did the quarterfinal matches, which were the second and third places in the blocks. So you had Shingo Takagi defeated the Great O'Khan to make it to the semi-finals, where he'll face the A block winner Zack Sabre Jr. And then in the B block, you had Yota Tsuji defeat Konosuke Takeshita in the quarterfinal, which means that he'll be facing David Finlay in the semi-final. So one of Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo Takagi, David Finlay, and Yota Tsuji will win the G1 this year. Those matches are taking place tomorrow and Sunday, so we'll know by Sunday who the G1 winner is, and he'll be main event Wrestle Kingdom.
Do you still think it's going to be Zack Sabre Jr.?
I still do.
Nah, it's going to be Yota Tsuji. I think this is I've come around to the idea that this is their attempt of strapping the Rocket to him, because he won the New Japan Cup. So they're going to make him win the New Japan Cup, but fall short to Naito in his first title opportunity. Then he's going to come back, win the G1, and then he'll beat Naito for the title at Wrestle Kingdom. So that's kind of the arc they're going on to basically cement Yota Tsuji as one of their guys moving forward.
How often do they normally do I guess we could call it the Shawn Michaels Triple H booking of lose the first match, wait a couple months, get a second match, and then win the title thing that we've been seeing quite a bit lately?
Well, Yota Tsuji's had like 2 or 3 opportunities at the world title already and not won it, so that's not a case of
2 or 3 against Naito.
No, he's had his first one against Sonada when he returned to the company. This one with Naito would just be like, yeah, it'd be a year-long arc theme, but it's pretty much they as I say, New Japan are very just slow and deliberate with their booking, and leaned more towards the slow side in the last couple of years more than anything else. They haven't strapped the Rocket to anybody in the same way they have to, like Okada, when he came in, just within a month he was beating Tanahashi to become the world champion. They don't do that with really anyone at the moment. But I think they've been pretty deliberate with it, but it's kind of affected a lot of the younger guys. They all feel kind of in the same spot. The only one that is feeling like they're pushing beyond that point, well, the only 2 that feel like they're pushing beyond that point are Tsuji and potentially Gabe Kidd as well, just because he had a decent run. He's the New Japan Strong Champion, so they seem to at least be trying with those ones. But based on what happened in the G1, it feels like they've given up a bit on Shota Umino. Like, he didn't make any influence on the entire run whatsoever. Yuya Uemura got injured by the end of it, but he started off well, but then faded away pretty quickly. Ren Narita he was actually consistently booked to win quite often, but his performances left a lot to be desired. Yeah, as I said, it felt, for some people, it felt like good because it was quite an unpredictable tournament, but the quality of matches and the star power was like lower than it has been in a long, long time. I'd say that there are some like bright spots coming through. Like, I think Oleg Boltin looks like he could be a bit of a player moving forward. They seem to rehab the Great Okan, which is good because he seemed to have been floundering for the last couple of years.
He wasn't the quite so great Okan, and now he is again.
Yeah, I'd say so. If I was New Japan, I would basically release anybody that you need to open up enough wage space to sign Konosuke Takeshita permanently. Because I think if they ever did sign Takeshita to New Japan permanently, he would just shoot up to the top, and they would basically build New Japan around him in the same way they did with Okada. Because it was quite obvious, as I didn't watch all of the G1, but like when I checked out his matches, it was quite obvious that he's just a miles better wrestler than anybody on that show.
You've mentioned this actually quite a bit lately about the idea of Konosuke Takeshita being in New Japan. Is it mostly wishful thinking, or do you think that there's actually like a chance that he might leave AEW to go there?
So there have been like rumblings about interviews that Takeshita given in the past with like in Japanese promotions and in Japanese media about how he's not particularly satisfied with what's going on in AEW or his position in AEW. And I don't think it's a case of...
I'm shocked.
But there is like it is getting to the point of you're either going to push this guy or you're not going to push this guy.
Yeah,
and
it's strange that they haven't given him one of their 3 mid-card titles that they have, or even like if you count Ring of Honor, they could technically give him 2 other mid-card titles or the Ring of Honor World title. You've got about 7 options that you can go with without disrupting the actual world title picture, which even then, you know, it's not the craziest thing in the world for him to have been a contender for that.
I mean, the thing is that he is extremely popular. Like when he was in the 6-way ladder match to crown the TNT title champion that Jack Perry won, and it was clear that everyone wanted Takeshita to win that match. So, like, it's not like there's no crowd support for it, and they just don't want to elevate him to that level for whatever reason, or it's always very stop-start with him. I think the level of which he demonstrated how much like better he is in ring than pretty much anybody in the New Japan roster right now means that if he were to go over there and become like a permanent fixture in the New Japan scene, then he would be like pushed to the top almost immediately. Probably the only reason that he's not in the semi-finals and won't be in the finals of this G1 is because he's not a New Japan guy. And that's kind of the issue as well, is that it's not just AEW that's in the mix. He's a DDT guy as well. So he wrestles for 2 other promotions that are not New Japan. So New Japan will have to pry him away both from DDT and AEW to get hold of him. So I think that it's not like out of the realms of possibility. Like if you're going to be the top star in Japan, then you have to go to New Japan at some point and be that guy. So I think that Takeshita would definitely be open to the idea of going there and taking that mantle at some stage, but it's whether New Japan can afford to do that because they just don't seem to have the resources to back that up at the moment. I would say that even if AEW would just view Takeshita as a mid-carder, they would probably offer more money than to keep him than New Japan could, so it would just be where Takeshita's priorities lie.
I think strapping him with Don Callis kind of fucked him over a bit, especially, and then that whole feud, which felt like a big deal because it was Jericho, whether you liked the pair or not, it was Jericho and Omega, and then Omega gets hurt, Jericho flounders for like a week or 2 as a babyface, and then does this learning tree thing, and even Callis, who was, for better or worse, a major fixture in the company, now just sort of feels like he's just there and they don't know what to do with him. And I'm not suggesting they need to run and find something for Don Callis, but I'm just saying it does feel like
there's a drop off for sure.
Yeah.
He went from being the biggest heel in the company and amassing a pretty big group of people that had been very prominent stars and, you know, some up and comers and people like Powerhouse Hobbs and stuff that were getting serious pushes, to just being like, he pops up on Rampage and Collision once in a while to stand next to people like Kyle Fletcher, who are just sort of bit players in other matches. And Kyle Fletcher right now is more so a guy for MJF to interact with because he's feuding with Ospreay, rather than let's go ahead and push the Don Callis family right now.
I mean, I'd say that like long term, we're looking at the Don Callis family versus Will Ospreay in some configuration.
And the United Empire in some way.
Mm-hmm.
If they can even call them that, I don't know if they can. I know we'll get into predictions next week, but you brought it up, and I just want to get a gauge of where everybody is. Do we think they're going to just go all the way and align MJF with Callis and make it all the more insufferable? Because, like, that's...
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not certain on that at the moment, but then again, I'm not too certain about what the long-term future of MJF really is at the moment. So, but yeah, I mean, I feel at the moment like Callis will be involved in like interactions with Ospreay moving forward. So I don't think that you can really, because then you would just be in Ospreay and MJF for like months and months moving forward. Where I think that the matchup All In is probably going to be, at least for now, a blow-off match between those two.
Yeah, we'll get into the more prediction stuff, like more solid next week when we talk about that. Assuming my mouth allows me to. I guess I got that wisdom teeth thing. But the fact that Pac is going to face the winner of the international title match at All Out afterward and not actually be competing at Wembley makes me just kind of stick around with that old, like, Ospreay wins, he beats MJF, the American Championship goes away, it's the international title again, that kind of thing.
Look, I'm not saying that we have to just base everything on location, but it's really fucked up if you're going to do the two British men fighting in Chicago,
mm-hmm.
and the American champion, by the way, has made it more international than it's been in a while. And like, I understand why it's been done that way. It's a little funny.
Yeah, I don't understand that booking either. Again, we'll get more into that next week, but that brings up another topic of the whole setup of All In. Now we know that that's coming next week. The big hubbub around it this week, though, has been All In 2025 is not going to be in Wembley. They will return in 2026, assumingly at Wembley Stadium. But next year, they're going to be at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, as part of this big, cohesive partnership that they've been having with the Arlington
this Pure Fusion Collective.
Yes. What about a Fatal Influence? And they're going to draw all that street trash to come into the arena. They've been working on this Arlington deal, and I guess this was a part of it, was you need to give us a big pay-per-view, and they decided to go with All In instead of any other option that they could have gone with. They could have very easily been like, fine, we'll give you Revolution.
This is the right way.
Yeah, what you're assuming that Texas held AEW over a barrel, and you've got to give us All In. That's the play.
No, not necessarily.
I don't think that's what
but AEW could have chosen some other kind of alternative too. So I'm curious why they went with All In as the one that they wanted to go with.
Because it's the biggest stadium show. They like when you hear All In, you know it's a big show, and they're like, yeah, this is our first United States, massive stadium show.
I mean, it makes sense if they are going with every time we're going to try to have a much bigger thing, we're always going to make that the all-in one because that's the one we're taking the biggest risk on. Like, that makes sense, yeah. But some people are upset about this. Some people are on my... Person. You haven't seen anybody upset about it?
I have not seen a single person upset by this.
I've seen plenty of online about, like, this should be London every year. Oh, I was going to get tickets next
stupid.
year.
That's stupid. For that matter, I think Chicago every year for All Out is stupid. I think Vegas every year is stupid. No, like...
Yep. So that's where I get from, because it's like, I know, obviously, if you're in the London area and you're like, God damn, man, like, I was really looking forward to getting tickets next year because I couldn't go this year, or like I wanted to make it a trifecta or something. Yeah, I get that you would be upset that you don't have that option now, but I don't like when anything is like as rigid as they've done in AEW. Or, I mean, you switch it. WWE doesn't do it like that, but like WWE does have their rigid things. Like I've always complained about, it shouldn't just be, hey, it's November, it's time for War Games or whatever. And, you know, WrestleMania could be outside of the United States. Like, it doesn't have to be and all that. So to me, I look at this and I go, I don't fucking care. It doesn't affect me personally. So there's like, you know, there's a level of disparity there where I'm just not personally invested, because I wasn't going to be going to All In London, and I'm not going to go to Arlington. It does change a couple things around, though. I think it's a little bit harder to justify a stadium in Texas compared to going overseas, and you don't have that sort of, hey, when's the next time are we going to be here type of vibe. Whereas Texas, I mean, they've been there a bunch of times, and you don't feel like you have to go on that front.
Yeah, but everybody keeps, I've seen a few people go, I'm not going to Arlington already. You're different. I know you're just not going to go. But I've seen people who would normally maybe travel right off the idea of going. And I'm like, you don't know what the fucking card is. Maybe they announce a match that's so crazy that you're like, yeah, right. I want to be in there when Omega fights Okada in a steel cage. Don't know if that's going to happen. That's just what came to my mind. Like,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's probably not going to be on the card. But yeah, I mean, you never know. And that's the other part of this is, like, for anybody that's getting either so pumped about it or so butthurt about it, I look at this and go, well, it's probably just going to be like any other card. There's going to be great matches. It's going to have some people that are going to be focused around the area, but it's not going to need as much of that flair. It's not like when you go to London, they're going to put more influence on the UK talent. When they go to Arlington, Texas, I don't think they're going to be like, give me a spreadsheet of everybody that's from the Texas area, and then we need to absolutely 100% book them on the card. Nah. So it's going to feel a little bit more like AEW Dynasty or Double or Nothing or All Out or whatever.
There's a couple people I can make that exception for. There's at least one person who I think will be getting a big spotlight over the next year because of this, and that would be Athena. I think once she drops the title in Ring of Honor, they'll start building her up in AEW with the hopes of doing a major match at this show.
Yeah, and like that certainly is a possibility. But I don't think that this is going to be like, oh man, we got to spend the next year building up all that Texas talent, you know? I think a lot of people are upset over this for no real reason other than the fact that they wanted to go to London. And maybe there's a little bit of OCD for some people that are like, I wish that they would have at least done the third one there to complete a trilogy or something. I get that. There's plenty of times where I am like, they should adjust this graphic a little bit, or, you know, I mean, if you watch a Review to a Kill series, you know, about me with my gun barrel in the James Bond series and all. But from the perspective of somebody who has more of a personal stake in this, how do you feel about this, Callum? They're not going to have All In Wembley next year.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Because he's a normal...
See, he's a rational human being, everybody.
Whoa. Well, the first, like, they've announced that they're going back to London for All In 2026. So that's already happening. And then Tony Khan has also announced today that they're also going back to London in some other capacity next year as well. So
they'll do like a live tour or something. Or they'll do a series of like Dynamite, Rampage, Collision tapings or something.
Why not like London Worlds? That'd be sick. You know?
Yeah, like they clearly have enough of a market in that area and have built up enough of a good rapport that they're not going to be like, well, that's it, everybody. We did those 2 shows in England, and we're never coming back again.
There's this weird, and especially with AEW, and I think, honest to God, it's because people don't know how to act when a promotion exists for more than 5 years. There's this weird dooming and always prophesizing the doom of AEW. Like, they're going to be around, and they're going to keep touring, and everything's going to be fine. Like, stop thinking it's all or nothing all the time. Like,
that's a different pay-per-view. All or Nothing.
I've combined them. I've merged them.
Yep.
But yeah, stop doing that with AEW. Just like let this company exist.
I mean, you could have just ended the sentence with "people don't know how to act." Just people that nowadays they're all fucking nuts. You're all, you know.
Well, I think it's been demonstrably proven by the wrestling media that it pays better to criticize AEW and to act like AEW is dying or that AEW has tons and tons of problems than to praise them. I mean, that's the algorithm. That's how it works. I mean,
listen, as somebody who's in wrestling media but is not in charge of that end of it, I don't give a fuck. Be normal. Be a normal being.
Are we gonna then throw shade at Tony for leading with the Britt Baker story last on the thumbnail last week for the hot tags?
Tony's not normal. He's never claimed to be.
It's one of those things. Controversy is always going to be more of a draw than praise across the board. And AEW is in that, like, at first, AEW coming in, the whole thing was we're going to crap on WWE and it's the AEW's the savior thing. Now they're on the swing of we got to do the doom and gloom of AEW. And, you know, but most of the things that I had seen were people upset mostly about the idea of like they wanted it to be in England for a specific reason, or that they were annoyed that it's not like every year it's that. And that's just a tradition thing, more so than the doom and gloom of AEW ending or anything like that.
No, it's kind of actually in certain places have like the opposite reaction where people going, "Oh, AEW's not dying at the end of this year," and then they are going to get a new TV deal and they are going to be doing big shows in all the way into 2025. Because I mean, that's clearly what this alludes to, as much as the fact that they're just doing a big show in Texas, which I think it's a good thing. Like, Texas has been a very stable ground for them in terms of crowd reactions and attendances, and obviously the Arlington thing has gone over very successfully as well, their residency there for both Ring of Honor and Collision. So I think that this is a good move to have their first big stadium show be in Texas. I disagree with Tony's assessment that this is just going to be like any other show. I mean, All In is their WrestleMania now. It's pretty much, that's what it is. Like, it's been demonstrated this year. This is clearly a WrestleMania type card for All In 2024, and it will be the same next year as well. I think they will push certain Texan talent. I don't think they'll make it like an absolute priority, but I could certainly see, as Rob said, Athena being pushed more prominently on AEW TV as soon as she ends up dropping the Ring of Honor Women's title, probably at Final Battle. And then I think that they'll also push the Von Erichs leading into Texas.
And I think they'll also... Go ahead. You might say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
I think they'll... Well, I was going to say, I think they'll also bill one of the matches to be Dustin Rhodes' final match.
Boom. Exactly what I was going to say. Yes. I think Dustin Rhodes is absolutely retiring next year in Texas.
If he wants to, obviously. I mean, that's completely down to... Dustin Rhodes may never, ever retire. He might be wrestling in 2030 or 2040 for as much as we know. But I would at least have if he's not going to retire, then at least have a kind of like signature match at that show as well. So I think they will try and heavily feature the Texas talent, which makes sense because, like, at the end of the day, it's a show like any other. You want to push local talent in order to attract a local fan base.
Soraya's getting a match in Wembley this year.
It's not been confirmed?
They're going to do something on Rampage, I thought, with her.
Well, Soraya's, there's going to be a segment where Soraya, like, talks about what her plans are for Wembley. I presume she's going to be on the buy-in and probably do some kind of open challenge.
If I had to guess right now, I'd say her and her brother, just to get him on the card too, will be on the buy-in in some kind of mixed tag match.
Or alongside the other mixed tag match that already is on the buy-in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Maybe not. Okay, maybe then it's just Soraya.
If my report that I had read is correct, it seems like what she says on spoilers for Rampage, I don't think anybody really cares. It seems like she says, I want a title match. And Tony Storm says, we'll have an eliminator match next week on Dynamite. And then if you beat me in the eliminator match, then after All In, you can get a title match. So I think that their idea of that is kind of like how they're doing Kazuchika Okada versus Claudio on Dynamite and not at Wembley, AEW All In proper. I think that they're trying to make it where it's like
she gets in the UK. She gets a match in the UK,
but on Dynamite, yeah.
Okay,
but I think she'll still come out at All In. I think that she'll lose this. She'll lose the title eliminator to Tony Storm, and then she'll come out in the buy-in and say that she wants a match. Like she needs to wrestle at Wembley and.
Then fucking
and then Jamie Hayter comes out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly.
But again, that's the speculation for next week's stuff. But overall, yeah, this is a good move for AEW. It's good to like get these deals sorted. As I don't think UK fans are gonna be missing out entirely for just a whole year, and then we'll be back to Wembley the year after, which is good as well because it makes that kind of year absence will hopefully make the next one more enticing to go to because now they have moved. Now they will be moving next year's All In away somewhere else. It's no longer like kind of a rest on your laurels kind of thing. You don't like next year's All In Wembley. You don't know what's gonna. You don't know when they're gonna be back in London or back on Wembley doing this sort of show again.
So if you're in the Arlington area, get your tickets for All In 2025, and if you're in the London area, wait another year. It is what it is. What could we bounce around to here? Let's go to, if we're talking AEW, let's talk about some other AEW topics here.
I've got one because Sean just reported this 3 minutes ago. Adam Cole is just about ready to go, maybe getting cleared as soon as next week. Casino Gauntlet. That's me, that's not Sean. But throw the motherfucker in the Casino Gauntlet, do Adam Cole against somebody. Actually, it's perfect. Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, 3 years after they debuted back-to-back at All Out? Do that.
So then should we start the ticking clock for when Adam Cole gets injured again?
Hey, why don't you go fuck yourself, Teddy?
I'd rather not risk Adam Cole immediately coming back and immediately getting a title match after basically his jump off the apron destroying a whole kind of year's worth of storylines.
Well, it's my birthday, so nana boo boo. It's what I want, okay? Not what you want.
By the way, everybody hit up Rob's Cash App and stuff if you want to give him a birthday present.
Yeah, donate to Tony's Patreon, but for my birthday, give me some money. Thank you.
I kind of ask the question: do you really want this Adam Cole to challenge for the world title, or do you want the Adam Cole of 10 years ago to wrestle for the world title?
Don't do that. Don't say 10 years ago. That makes me feel worse. At least the Adam Cole of 5 years ago, yes. I love myself some NXT Adam Cole, and that's the Adam Cole that I thought I was getting in AEW, and I just haven't yet. So I'm a little sad, but there's always hope, Callum. There's always hope.
I mean, that's arguably like one of the matches that I'm most looking forward to is Casino Gauntlet, because there literally could be anybody in that. That's even the point. So the only thing we know is that Orange Cassidy's going to be number one, but there's just a bucket load of unpredictability off the back of that. I think they'll try and make this like the biggest Casino Gauntlet match ever as well, in terms of like the number of people coming out to participate.
That's going to be a topic for next week that I think it's going to be really interesting, is like who is going to be in this Casino Gauntlet, because Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong felt like two people that would have made a lot of sense to be in it for me.
Well, they might be in it. They're just not number one.
Yeah, that's not first.
That's a little bit confusing because I keep seeing only references of Orange Cassidy being in it.
Because we only know for a fact.
He's the only one we know that he's number one. That's the point of the Casino Gauntlet. You're supposed to not know who's in it at all, but we know that Orange Cassidy's number one because they won that match in Dynamite. Now we don't know who is going to be in that match.
So you don't think that they're going to announce any other people prior to when it happens?
No, that's the point of the Casino Gauntlet, is that you don't know who's coming out and you don't know who's in the match or when it's going to happen or what. Yeah, it's always been a mystery thing. That's what the previous two are. So I don't see.
I thought that they had announced people the last couple times that they had announced most of the people ahead of time.
No, because the first one that Ospreay won felt like out of the blue.
Yeah, because Ospreay just came out fighting for the international title when everyone just went, "Oh Christ, he's in this match," because they just assumed, "Oh, he's not going to be fighting for the international title. He's going to be fighting for the world title soon." So, and then he just came out for that one and won it, and then he won the second one as well, and he'd already won the international title, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's going to also go for the world title as well." So yeah, as I say, they've never ever announced participants for the Casino Gauntlets beforehand. This is the first time that anyone has ever been announced ahead of time as being part of the match. So. Man,
it's hard to keep track of the Casino Gauntlet, the Casino Battle Royale, the Casino Ladder Match, the Casino whatever.
I think over time now the Casino Gauntlet is kind of, it's their thing now. That's the big one.
I'm gonna guess
that's their equivalent of the Royal Rumble, I think.
Yeah, the Gauntlet's probably gonna overtake everything. Casino Ladder Match was really fun, but not practical. Like, anyone can run up a ladder and just pull the thing down before the other 7 or 8 people.
The whole casino enter into that kind of group thing. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan. They couldn't just flat out do the Royal Rumble, so they needed to try to do something a little bit different. But I still kind of like the Casino Battle Royale a little bit better, because at least there you have to wait until everybody's out to win.
They can always make that a rule, But I guess the Gauntlet's more like an eliminator, so that's fine.
No, I like the unpredictability of this one. I mean, I think that they should at least, hopefully not for the first few ones, but somewhere down the line, maybe one they do next year, they should have it just be won by the time the first 2 people have entered.
I think people would just be annoyed at that, though.
I think it adds an element of unpredictability to it.
I agree with you in theory, but I also think that because most people wouldn't see the fun in it, they'd just be, well, I want to, that's...
It's the same argument to where, like, when you have a match that goes to commercial break, every once in a while, technically, it should end on the commercial break, but then people would be like, whoa, why the fuck didn't you have that on the actual show? Like, I would try to play around with it if I were a booker and just be like, look, try to make it unpredictable, but I'm sure people would, make a stink about it.
People bitch about everything, so just do what you want to do. Just do what you want to do. If people bitch about it, people bitch about it. Just they're about to have like a ironclad TV deal for the next 5 years. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Still no news on that front, which is kind of strange. I wonder what they're waiting for. But
he knows he's got a deal. He's just waiting to announce it. He's probably going to announce actually at Wembley, probably.
Yeah, that's my guess. Listen, when Tony Khan, when I go through these interviews with him, and he's just like, "I'm so proud that we brought wrestling back to Warner, and it just announced that you've resigned." Like, no one thinks that they're talking to Fox or anything. Has anyone heard anything about any other, organization outside of Turner? No, because they never planned on leaving. I just think it's a matter of when is the best time to announce, hey, we're back and we're back for more.
I just don't think that Tony Khan would take as seemingly quite a confident and brash tone when talking about this stuff if he didn't know that the deal was either very close to being agreed or is pretty much already signed on the dotted, just needs to be signed on the dotted line. So I think that I'm fairly confident that they're going to get what they want for the most part, or at least like both sides will come to that they're both happy with. So,
I don't know the transition they do for this, but I guess it's just AEW, so another AEW topic. Britt Baker has issues with Jamie Hayter too.
So this came from a Fightful podcast. I don't know if it was SRS's backstage podcast on Select or if it was one of his What Do You Guys Want to Talk About podcasts. But he did say that the ship has probably sailed on Baker and Hayter reuniting, and that they somewhere along the way they had a fallout interpersonally. So that sucks, man. It's like, I really enjoyed that pairing, and I've enjoyed a lot of pairings in AEW that have been kind of withered away by interpersonal issues, and boo.
There's a recurring theme here. Like,
it's my professional thoughts on it.
well, I mean, I would like to parlay this into the segment that took place on Dynamite this week. So you had Hikaru Shida versus Mercedes Moné for the TBS Championship, which I thought was a very good match, and I thought that Shida did very well. I thought Mercedes did her part very well, and Camille doing her little bits at ringside played her part as well. And then the match ends. Obviously, Mercedes wins, and they did it in kind of a Camille get involved, so you got room to have a rematch sometime down the line. But then Britt Baker's music hits, and Camille goes outside, and she drags like a fan that was in the Sting mask outside, because that was the last time that Britt Baker did things, and then she just beat up seemingly just a fan. We have no idea who that person was, so she just like beat up a fan at ringside, and then Britt Baker walks slowly through the crowd towards the ring, then gradually climbs up onto the apron, and then very slowly puts on the glove, all while Mercedes is having to just stand there looking like an idiot holding a steel chair or the kendo stick or whatever, and Camille has to just continue to try and put more of a beating on the fan at ringside because there's nothing else to do. And then she slowly gets into the ring, and then she does her stuff, and then she puts on the lockjaw, but then when Camille goes to pull her off, she seemingly just refuses to let go of the lockjaw as well, which makes Camille look ineffective. So yeah, I think Britt's demonstrating that she's pissy about what happened with the MJF thing, and she's now seemingly sabotaging segments. At least that's the perspective that I got from how that went. It just was really, really awkward, and it made Mercedes look bad. It made Britt look bad, but like she at least got to stand tall in terms of like she was the one that went on the aggressive against Mercedes. Makes Camille look bad. Makes the whole kind of just build toward this feud look pretty bad. So I know there's been fair criticism towards Mercedes' run so far in AEW, but if this feud ends up bombing, then I'm putting this blame squarely on Britt's shoulders for this.
We've said it before about like CM Punk and some other people.
Cody and the Elite, never being on TV again after the first pandemic show. Think about that.
Who was?
Cody and the Elite.
Oh, Cody and the Elite, yeah. It's an old-timey phrase, but it does ring true. If everyone you meet is an asshole, you're the asshole. And there are too many stories at this point that revolve around Britt Baker has problem with so-and-so, and I mean, maybe she's right in some ways. Maybe she, you don't have to be, it's not like black and white thing that somebody's just like totally wrong, totally right, whatever. But assuming that these things are true and that all these reports are framed correctly and that there aren't missing elements that would change our perspectives about things, at some point you got to just sort of be like, look, I need to get rid of people that are causing problems. No matter what company it is, no matter what situation is going on, whether you like the person or not, you got to get rid of people sometimes. And
they did it with Punk. I'm not suggesting it with Baker. I'm just saying there is precedent. They did do it with CM Punk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, if you did it with CM Punk, they've shown the precedent that they can do it to anybody.
Yeah.
Because like nobody is above the company, which is the way it should be, because at the end of the day, it's your business. You need to run it how you see fit. And I'm not saying that Britt Baker is like an awful person, but she does seem to be an agitator, or at least by report standing, and just how that segment went. Like, it just came across as someone who's like throwing their toys out of the pram out over like what they think is probably an unfair suspension. And so I think that she like needs to, I guess, consider like what she is aiming to get out of all of this. Like, does she think that because she is arguably the most like popular like AEW original from like the women's side of things, that she's untouchable? Because like, you look at all the other things, like barring like the MGF and Alicia tout story, and now apparently the reports about like getting on with Jamie Hayter now, and this way that she's handling the feud with Mercedes, with a lot like insider references, and that segment, like, it's like, well, Thunder Rosa's been back for a while, and like, she seemingly has no issues with anybody outside of Britt Baker, based on what happened in the past anyway. So how long is it until like Britt Baker has like another issue with somebody? So you kind of have to like manage that problem better than you did the CM Punk problem. Like, use the CM Punk thing as a learning experience, and don't just I hate to say it, but like, Tony Khan needs to learn how to put his foot down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
so he can't just let another star with potentially, again, I know it's all speculation, but like, if the reports are accurate, they can't just let somebody with the difficulties verbal, and maybe like who thinks that they can throw their weight around because of, you know, being a merch mover and a popular star, just to like try and placate both sides, because eventually you just have to go, right, this is how it is. If you don't like it, then we can go without you. Like, because it's not like, I'd say Britt Baker's only just come back after like a year plus on the sidelines. It's not like, and in that time you've seen the rise of Toni Storm, Mariah May's getting super over as part of that as well. Got like Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo have had like a big time feud over, mainly on like Rampage and Collision, but they've been doing stuff. You've got Athena in the wings, the Ring of Honor champion, obviously Mercedes there as well. So it's not like she's like basically she's the whole division like she was a couple of years ago. It's like, it has moved on quite significantly since. You got, like, I didn't even mention like Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, and Hikaru Shida, and Jamie Hayter when she comes back. There's plenty of people that can step into that dentist chair necessarily if they need to, and you know, she can go and be a dentist for the rest of her life if she wants to.
And, you know, I mean, maybe that is the plan. Maybe it's, you know, but it's, we keep having these things pop up, and that's not good one way or another. So it wouldn't shock me at this point if we hear that she leaves AEW, and then let's put it this way. It wouldn't shock me if I heard that. It would have really shocked me before. And it also really would have shocked me before if she ever would have left AEW and then not gone elsewhere. But at this point, if there's enough of a reputation behind that, I think we might be looking at a situation kind of like Tessa Blanchard. Not in the exact same way, but it always felt like, wow, Tessa Blanchard's got all these positives to her. She's a good-looking, second-generation, talented wrestler
I think
young
people,
enough.
Hold on. I think people can excuse bad attitudes. I don't think you can excuse racism.
That's what I mean. It's not that exact same situation, but like, in theory, it was like, oh, before everything came out about Tessa Blanchard, it was like, oh, she's got the pick of like wherever she would want to go, and of course anybody would want to have her in the company. And then it comes out more and more of all these backstage stories, and it's like, oh, no wonder she's actually not being brought into WWE, because she's got this kind of baggage behind her. And Britt Baker, if she develops enough of a reputation behind this, why would somebody like a WWE be willing to bet on bringing her in? You would assume she's just a troublemaker. And then you would be like, let's not bother.
It depends. How much did she get along with CM Punk, and would he be willing to vouch for her?
True. Because, Punk's been seemingly on his best behavior.
Would Cody be willing to vouch for her?
Although if there is that story about her and Brandy, then I wouldn't think that would necessarily be the case.
That's also fair.
I've kind of taken the mindset that some other people have, and I think I mentioned this before, and I feel like CM Punk is being tested a little bit in WWE, and I think that whole friendship bracelet angle was a sign that he's being his I don't want to say fragility, but his temperament is being tested a little bit in terms of what he's willing to do for certain storylines and what stuff that he's willing to get on board with. So yeah, I can imagine them throwing a similar test towards Britt Baker's way. I can imagine her in the same way CM Punk has, realistically, because CM Punk not actually won a match on TV since he came back to WWE.
That's actually true.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of things that are kind of it sounds stupid to say, but it's let's wait and see what happens. But that happens with a lot of the news cycle, and that also applies to another AEW thing. Daniel Garcia possibly leaving AEW and being not 100% sure what he wants to do, maybe going to WWE, maybe re-signing with AEW. It's we don't know what his thought process is, and we could be tomorrow, oh, okay, so he re-signed with AEW, he pops back up, he's he shows up at All In or something along those lines next week. Or hey, NXT No Mercy comes around and look who's in the crowd, it's Daniel Garcia.
Well, I'm going to tie this into another AEW story, actually. It came out in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that AEW can extend Phoenix's contract if they want to for injury time.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And I think both of these things are a test of where AEW's at. Because on the Garcia front, I think they need to lock him down, or they risk losing even more of that appeal of we book the young, great pro wrestlers. On the Phoenix end, I think, I believe it might have been Ibu that said this on Twitter, that WWE didn't even extend Lashley's contract for injury time. It'll be a bad look in a time where you need as much goodwill as possible to extend Phoenix's contract if they're really out the door. You know what I mean? If you know they're out the door and you're not, and they're just not even going to appear in the programming again, don't extend the contract. So I think both of these things are a test of where AEW is at, because I think losing Garcia is a big, big, big deal in terms of the perception of what AEW is.
I kind of agree with a lot of Rob's saying there. I think AEW is clearly losing the optics war right now in wrestling. It's very, very obviously a situation where WWE is kind of winning the PR battle. They're the popular hot hand right now. So you run into a situation where you're AEW where, yes, you could legally and realistically extend Phoenix's contract due to injury if you so wanted to. But at the end of the day, it's not like they wrestle all the time on TV. You get 10 matches out of them over the course of that year. They're going to be unhappy. Everyone's going to know what happened. That's why he's still around, or at least the people quote unquote in the know, and the people on Twitter will know why he's still there. So they'll be pissed about it. So realistically, you leave yourself to saving face more to just let them go, because at the end of the day, if they're not willing to be part of AEW for the long term, there's no point just collaring them and keeping them around, because then you just become what WWE were, and you're trying to separate yourself out from them. The Daniel Garcia one, as Rob says, it does paint the problem of this is a young guy in his mid-20s that decides that going off to WWE or NXT is more is better for his future. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that the overall picture of people moving between promotions is a very, very good thing, and it's healthy. I think that we never want to go back to a situation, and I use this guy a lot, but we don't want to have a situation where Dolph Ziggler's at the same place for 14 years.
Yeah.
Or like The Miz has been in the same place for the whole of his career. And some people will be like that, I'm not saying, but that should be the exception, not the rule. We should be seeing a situation where, like, you know, half the WWE or AEW roster is switching to different promotions every now and like after every like 5, 6, 7 years or so. They just want to freshen things up or try something different or go to a new audience, just so, you know, to keep things fresh and exciting, because that's what was happening during the Monday Night Wars, and that's how it should proceed moving forward. So in another kind of mindset, like, I don't think that there's a real problem with Daniel Garcia going over to WWE or Ricky Starks or the Lucha Brothers. Because, you know, sometime down the road, a guy like, again, I'm just spitballing things here, but maybe a guy like a Tavion Heights or something like that decides that, he's maybe not getting as much seeing in WWE, maybe he'll head over to AEW and try things out there, or like a Wesley, or just anybody, really.
Like a Fallon Henley.
Yeah, exactly. Just somebody who has shown glimpses in WWE, but then decided, I'm not getting either the opportunities here, or I think maybe the grass is greener on the other side, and so decides to head over to AEW. There's going to have to be some back and forth movement. And it's not just like the young guys in NXT. You could see like somebody like a Kevin Owens just saying, maybe for the final 2-3 years of my career, maybe I do want to spend it with the Young Bucks because we did loads of stuff in the past, so maybe I'll just go have fun there for the last like 2 or 3 years of my career. Like, there's a lot of moving parts, but as Rob rightly says, when it's a young guy like Daniel Garcia deciding to go over there, then you get into the mindset of, so actually NXT and WWE are the place where the young up and coming wrestlers go, not to the upstart indie promotion, which has just been kind of regurgitating the same people in and around the main event scene for the past 2 or 3 years.
And also, as much as I love these people, you gotta run that risk of being like, I love Edge and Christian. Should Edge and Christian be higher on a card than a Daniel Garcia? Shouldn't Daniel Garcia have moved up the card? What the hell with Jay White? You know, there's a few of them in there that I can say AEW didn't deliver. Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks is probably 99.99999% out the door. That's a mistake. I don't care what happened. That is a mistake. You could have said, here's a guy who we took and made a star, and we took him to the top, and it's like, you didn't. And now everybody's just waiting to see when he shows up elsewhere. And that's a mistake. Wardlow, mistake. And maybe that was not on all them. Maybe Wardlow is just only good in a certain role. I don't know. But it's still a mistake when he was super hot that he cooled off that much.
I mean, I say, I don't know how much you can... Obviously, you can put a lot of blame on the crowd, but I don't think you can put, like... In both those cases, I think Ricky Starks, they had him beat Jericho multiple times, and they had him win the tag titles and win the Owen Hart Cup. It's not like they never gave him anything. Again, they didn't... Maybe the argument is they didn't capitalise on the momentum enough, but it's not like he was always... You cast aside, so, they're never doing anything with Ricky Starks. Like, they were doing stuff with him. It's just, you know... There's a lack of momentum there. Wardlow, I think, has always been a case of, you know, he without the MJF story, he's pretty like limited in what he can do. So I think that I think he's a guy that could definitely move to WWE and get, you know, a good 2-3 year run as a bodyguard that then turns into a monster babyface for a little while. That's kind of his lot in life. But that, you know, in the territory days, that would be his career.
I mean, he'd be going around the different territories, just being like, I do this shtick for 10 years, and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you know, he could do that for WWE as well, and maybe WWE would even be a better fit, because I'm not saying that they are less prioritized than the in-ring style, but they are definitely more a look-focused company than a like in-ring company. So a guy like Wardlow can elevate himself to the top in the same way a Batista or a Obafemi does.
You know, real quick, because you brought up looks, did you see that weirdo bullshit about how Cody's not clicking because he doesn't look big enough.
How's that a thing going around now?
Well, I think just loads of people jumping on the, like, Cody is... Because Roman Reigns is back, so everyone's like, oh, Cody's title run has been a failure. Roman's back, just put the title back on Roman straight away.
These people are terrible. Like, this is why nobody gets made into a star. You're really going to sit here and say Cody's a failure? And the idea that Cody doesn't look big enough is ridiculous when you look at his body transformation from, 10, 15 years ago to right now. He looks tremendous. I think it's insane. And people be reaching every day on social media just to get into some sort of flame war. And I don't know where the fun is in that. Like, what are you doing?
It's the same people that also will turn around and complain and be like, WWE is the land of the giants and they never give a push to anybody unless there's some roided up whatever. And then you're like, you can't have it both ways. Like, not everybody's a Bobby Lashley, and at the same time, like, you mean to tell me that, like, every baby face that finally wins the title, you're immediately going to go, that's the story, it's over. As long as they are not chasing anymore, I do not care. Fuck you,
That's kind of the mindset, though, which is really unfortunate.
But I would say that, like, Cody's title run has been, fine.
Yeah,
like,
it's not bad.
It's nothing special. Like I say, it's been kind of the secondary story on SmackDown because the real main story's been the Bloodline. The only time it's felt like the big story is when he started interacting with the Bloodline again. But it's not like it's certainly not to do with his look or appearance. I mean, if it was to do with his look, it'd be the giant fucking tattoo on his neck. But that's that's a whole other story. But
they've made so much merch. It's definitely not that.
But yeah, I think that we want to see a wrestling landscape where people are moving between promotions pretty frequently. I'd say I've said the biggest issue with what I consider like the wrestling landscape in North America right now is there isn't a prominent number 3 to go up against WWE and AEW. There should be a third big wrestling promotion, and as much as they all survive forever, it's not going to be TNA.
It felt for 2 seconds we thought we were getting that in like January, and then immediately just no.
And it won't be GCW. It needs another crazy billionaire that's grown up watching wrestling comes in and says that I've got the TV connections. We basically need another, not the same
Freddie
type
Prinze
of
Jr. to fucking come through already. Like,
it's wild that the Freddie Prinze Jr. thing has still been like that. We haven't heard anything about this company except for 2 things that at least this is the only thing I've ever heard is I wanted Bray Wyatt or Karrion Kross to be my main guy. And then the other thing I heard was we're talking to people.
Well, and this I'll say is the correct thing to do. He's not overstaying too much so that it's not like, oh my God, next week, and then months go by and you're like, what the fuck? I just wanted to come through because I want a different vision of wrestling to a certain extent on TV, and I'm hoping that he gives that good third option. Because TNA, for the most part, is basically, it's kind of like AEW where it's just good wrestling, and there's a little bit of WWE in that there's a WWE connection, but I kind of want another vision. I want to see if Freddie Prinze Jr. or anyone can pull that off.
Yeah, well, it's a weird environment.
I'm just waiting for him to like launch it, and then he immediately makes Dolph Ziggler his world champion. Because that seems what every other promotion is doing, right? It's WWE or AEW.
It's true.
Here's another. Since I brought that up about stupid internet stuff, the fact that some random YouTube channel claimed that Linda McMahon stated that Vince's health is in decline, and people picked it up, is the most bonkers thing I can possibly think of. No actual source, nothing direct from Linda, but some rando YouTube account picks it up, and credit to John Pollock and Brandon Thurston, they do great work and great reporting in all things McMahon, actually got a statement from Vince's attorney saying, no, his health is good. Which, glad they cleared that up, but the fact that they even needed to do so is ridiculous.
Maybe we should just start making up bullshit.
No, that's what I don't want to do.
You heard it here first, everybody. AEW Revolution is going to be in just like... yeah, that's a weird story that happened this week. Yeah, there had been rumors that he was dealing with some kind of issue for a while, but like, yeah, if there's nothing to it and they just kind of spit it out of nowhere. Strange. Especially strange to throw out that like Linda was the one saying that. So, let's, I guess, like, start to wrap this up a little bit. We do have 2 other topics, and then we have the TV topics, too, if there's anything to go back on that. This is something I probably should have thrown in. We were talking about Judgment Day. Dominik Mysterio being on Logan Paul's podcast. I haven't checked out the full thing yet, but I'm interested too, because there's one thing that he did on there that I have seen a clip of that I think is absolutely hilarious, which is he had asked Logan Paul, they're talking about being in Japan, and he's like, oh, you were just in Japan. It was beautiful or whatever. Can you go there?
Well, okay. So he starts out by saying, oh, like, have you never been to Japan? And Logan's like, he's like, oh, wait, can you go? And Logan...
I thought you were shadow banned.
Like, I thought you were shadow banned. And then he keeps going, and he's like, oh, you'd be a real heel over there. You should wear the hat. Yeah. And
I don't know if you were put on a list or something.
My takeaway from this is that, 1, Dom is letting his real personality flow, which is really funny, apparently, so good on him. 2, they have to be pretty decent buds, because nobody will fuck with you. Like, your closest friends, where you're just like, yeah, bro, get the hat, and I bet they'll hate you.
Yeah.
You know, like, the third thing I took away from this was I actually had a mildly popular tweet about this, which I'm going to share in the chat right now, because surely you didn't see this, otherwise you would have laughed at it. Specifically you, Tony. Galantuna.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit that with a like button.
He's setting that up by saying, Logan, seems like you had a really fun time in Japan, Dominik, and then it's the clip of Homer telling Frank Grimes, sure, you've never been. Which, best episode of The Simpsons, watched it last night, absolutely holds up.
Definitely one of my favorite episodes of all time. Dom is like, it's so funny. Like, when he first popped up, I was in that kind of mindset of like, oh, I mean, sure, let's give Ray's kid a shot, but it doesn't seem like he's actually going to pan out to be anything. So this is another Slam Master J situation or whatever. And this guy's so great. I love Dom. He's one of my favorite people on the roster. He's so fun to see, like, you know, this heel personality on there. And I just kind of wanted to give a little shout out to that because I thought that was pretty funny. And, yeah, I mean, I guess that also newsworthy story of, like, if Logan Paul claims that he can go there, then sure, I guess he can. That was just a fun little thing that happened this week. Another fun thing, not fun in some ways, but fun in some other ways. Interesting, I should say, more so than fun. As far as a podcast and people talking about some kind of issues on a show, Matt Camp has been talking about, you know, his experience in WWE ever since he had been released earlier this year. And I love how he is just actually saying things. I've talked a million times about how people should just be open and honest about stuff. And it's, you know, the whole, I can't speak about this because I'm worried about whatever. Like, that kind of stuff annoys me. I really just want to know what the hell is going on. He mentioned about the bump and why the bump is, like, gone now, and some issues that they had along the way with getting rid of Kayla and moving her to a different spot and kind of trying to find some synergy and whatever. He basically just goes, And you know what? It didn't work out with Megan Morant and I. We don't have chemistry together. I don't really like her. She doesn't seem to really like me. And she's still there and I'm not. So take that for what you will. But that is kind of interesting in and of itself, that if Michael Cole and some other people are like, you should work with Megan to get her to be more like what you guys are doing. And then they get one of the people that they liked and they keep her. I wonder what's up there.
If I had to guess, Megan mostly does studio stuff, right?
At this point, yeah. She was at one point like backstage interviewer more than anything else, but.
And I think they decided, yeah, we don't need another dude. We'll keep Megan on board. I mean, Matt Camp, for whatever it is, I kind of liked him. I thought,
yeah.
Whenever I would watch the bump, I thought he was good. I thought he had a nice back and forth with Kayla and Popola and all that. But he seems very comfortable in his. Well, I see Maven making money on YouTube. I'm just going to talk about my experiences at WWE, and God bless him, it's working. People are picking this stuff up. I am a little surprised at how forthwith he is with everything. Always a good time, though. And I just think it's funny because you wouldn't think this much would come from, like, the bump. I thought the bump was gone because they haven't set up the new studio and new headquarters. And once they did that, I assumed the bump would come back. But maybe it does just go away forever.
I think if they haven't brought it back yet, we're probably looking at it not returning, because they experimented with a lot of different shows and never kind of just kept it going despite whatever the like operation losses and all are. We, of course, we're never going to find out that information, but I would imagine that the bump wasn't profitable in any way, and that the benefits that they get out of that, they've rolled into other things like the press conference things that they've been doing more. And it's pretty easy to just record some backstage interviews and then put them up on social media and just, cover a lot of those same topics. I know I stopped watching the bump a long time ago. And I know that Callum probably never watched more than maybe like 1 or 2 episodes in general, right?
I never watched an episode of The Bump.
Never. Not even one.
Not a full one. I saw like clips online. I've never ever watched, never sat down to watch an episode of The Bump, no.
So it's like, I know I can speak for a lot of like friends of mine that they never watched The Bump either, even if they're, crazy wrestling fans that are, hey, look, do you remember what happened in, Survivor Series 1995 or something like, that kind of front. The bump doesn't appeal to a lot of people. It's something that they experimented with for a bunch of years, and it is what it is. But I find the whole Megan Morant side of it kind of interesting because, it's a glimpse into the backstage stuff that we don't normally see. I guess they don't really get along all that well, or at least they won't now. And then Megan was like basically screw Megan Morant, but. It is like, I'm curious why they would keep Megan Morant around. I don't have anything against her, but like she's not doing anything that strikes me as like, well, we got to keep her because she's got some great interaction with so-and-so. The way that like Kayla had the whole thing with Paul Heyman, for instance, or, Kathy is like, she's got her, I think it's a TikTok account, or at least like, like a presence on like social media that like some people follow her for that stuff. And she seems like she's like really well liked and all. So anytime that you see any kind of like backstage glimpses of what they are kind of doing, it's a good way to like in the future, if we were to be like, okay, they got rid of like Jackie Redmond, then we would know she's held highly in high regard, according to Matt Camp. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, and, stuff like this is so interchangeable. But again, just shout out to him for, like, saying stuff with like Riddle too. Riddle and Roman Reigns having legit heat because Riddle apparently was like, I could kick your ass for real, and Roman did not like that. And I like that there's someone who's just saying all this stuff, because the time that Matt Camp was in WWE was easily the most turbulent time in WWE, even for his limited role. So it's fun to get a little bit of those stories.
Yeah. So let's wrap things up with the TV talk. Go back on Monday Night Raw. Anything to necessarily break down there?
I want to break down the fun segment with Dominik and Rhea and Liv and Priest. I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought Dominik being like, I deserve a woman who treats me like a man. She lets me play video games. She gives me tendies. is funny, but it's also like kind of relevant in the sense that like there are these people who do talk like this and who do, act like this, and there are women who make fun of them, and I think they're actually getting a kind of relevant story from that. I also like the rapport between Priest and Rhea. I think that's going to be a fun tag match in Germany, and that was probably my favorite point of the show in terms of segment stuff.
A lot of it was, like it's nothing really to break down. Like, Bronson Reed beats The Miz. Braun Breaker retained the Intercontinental title in a 2 out of 3 falls match against Sami Zayn. So it's like the story isn't like, hey, the title didn't change.
There is a story there. They turned Braun Breaker face.
That's that is like becoming more of a thing. What did he say beforehand? He was like, do we got any dogs in the crowd or something?
And he just goes, do you have any dogs in insert city? Because I don't remember where they were. And they just start barking.
Moody Center in Austin.
And sure enough, he beats Sammy. They aired it on socials. Sammy shakes his hand, and they're just like, okay, I guess Braun Breaker's moving towards babyface.
The handshake, and he also says, Braun Breaker, future face of the company.
Yeah,
which is like, it's not breaking ground. Like, obviously he's being groomed for that kind of a spot, but I guess they're not going to do Breaker Dragunov like I was anticipating.
My thing is like they just turned him heel,
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if people are digging it, go for it.
I do still kind of think that maybe they should do Breaker Dragunov in some capacity, but yeah, maybe they won't.
They could still do it as a matter of respect thing.
Or maybe turn Dragunov heel. Wouldn't be my go-to option, but
it wouldn't be mine either.
Unless they would have put him in like an Imperium, but I don't think that they should do that right now either.
He never wants to be an Imperium. He always wants to be Gunther's enemy.
Yeah. Other stuff on Raw. Number 1 contenders women's tag title thing ended in a no contest. We're gonna get a triple threat next week. American Made, Alpha Academy. We're not getting
a four-way with Bianca and Jade on a SmackDown instead, or at the pay-per-view, honestly.
I'm not seeing anything else on Raw to break down. NXT.
Well, Ivy Nile officially sided with American Made, so they're just literally doing Diamond Mine with Chad Gable at the helm, which is how it should have been to begin with. So kudos to them. And the other thing to break down is they set the stage for a Punk McIntyre strap match, which I think is interesting because Punk was supposed to give fans a strap match a year ago. And it appears he's damn determined to do so. I also just like the idea that Kathy Kelly was like, you're a liar. We didn't have...
Yeah, we were on the same plane together.
We were on the same plane. That's a fun little moment that I think more interviewers should do that.
We'll break down the strap match when they announce it and when we get into Bash in Berlin. But NXT had a couple of title matches. So Bafemi retained his North American title over Otis. Lola Vice had her whole thing with Tatum Paxley, Lexis King and Eddie Thorpe. If anybody gave a shit about that, they had a match. So did Izzy Dame and Brindley Reese. But Charlie Dempsey won the NXT Heritage Cup from Tony D'Angelo. A little bit of help from Ren Sinclair.
Ren Sinclair is great. That's a fun little pairing. I'm enjoying the hell out of that.
They started the show with a title change. They ended the show with a title change. Chase U, Ridge Holland, and Andre Chase beat Axiom and Nathan Fraser, who had just earlier in the show been like, hey, we're finally on the same page, and then they lose. So one of them's turning on the other, or at least they should split and go their separate ways instead of just being a pack of losers or so. But I'm down for Chase U being the tag champs more so than Supersonic Duo. I was tired of that act as it was. I'm down for Dempsey being the Heritage Cup winner again. He is the second person to be a 2-time Heritage Cup winner, the other being Noam Dar. And overall, it was a solid episode that had some dips and some things that weren't as important.
Next week will be more important towards No Mercy with like 2 number one contenders matches, so there'll be more to dissect there. But overall, like I said, love Dempsey. Obafemi beat Otis. Fun stuff there because Obafemi is fun. They're going to do a triple threat next week between Joe Hendry,
Wesley and Pete Dunne.
Right. And if Joe Hendry wins the NXT title for the TNA title, I will just laugh. And we're also going to find out who challenges Roxanne with a 6-woman gauntlet, and I think it's going to be Sol Ruca.
They brought back the Tumblr from the Royal Rumble to pick those names.
I did think of you when I saw that, which says something. I don't know what it does.
This like little list of things that Tony gets really excited about. The Royal Rumble Tumblr, the backstage, we're heading towards a championship match, and you got the heartbeat. Same thing with the cage lowering with that dum 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 dum. Where it's like, they did the thing I like, you know. But who do you think? You think it's Sol Ruca is going to get that title shot? She's probably the most obvious pick because she is the most established one out of the bunch, and the whole idea is who hasn't had a title shot against Roxanne yet.
They should do more of those on the main roster as well. I like when the story is, hey, these people haven't been given a shot. We're going to give them a chance to get a shot.
And you can rule out some of these people immediately. Like, it realistically should not be Jada Parker. She's a heel. I can't imagine any real support for boosting Kendall Gray immediately up to that spot. Adriana Rizzo, no, Yeah,
it won't be Rizzo.
No.
I imagine Rizzo and Sinclair will somehow take each other out because they're in that whole family NQCC thing. But like I said, good show for the most part, and they're kind of just marching along to No Mercy and the move to the CW.
Any of this stuff sound any appealing to you whatsoever, Cal?
Nah.
I didn't think so.
Any change at all on how you feel about Charlie Dempsey?
I'm not watching him, so I can't really have a chance of a change of opinion.
He's showing more character. That's good.
Tavian Heights is doing well in Japan.
Yeah, he's doing fantastic in Noah.
Is he doing well in that N1?
Yeah, he's doing pretty good.
Well, he's got 4 points. He's won 2 and lost 2 last time I checked.
But one of the ones he did
but he did beat the world champion.
Yeah, he beat the GHC champion, so there you go. And people are loving the matches from what I've seen. So good on him.
There was a clip online that he went to a sumo wrestling match, and he fought against the sumo wrestler, and then he just announced, "Oh, I'm a Olympic caliber Greco-Roman wrestler." And there's a clip like the sumo wrestler just like balking a little bit at the fall, and then he gets in the ring and just tosses that sumo wrestler around.
Tavian Heights is going to be good.
He's having fun. He seems to be having fun in Japan.
I think he'll be good.
Briggs is over there too. Is he doing okay?
I haven't heard shit about Josh Briggs. I'll be honest.
He was winning a fair number of matches, but I'm not getting any sort of there's not the same buzz surrounding his matches at the moment.
He's definitely the flavor of athlete that they like. He's a kind of big dude. He, can play that like lariat, rough man style. Yeah,
from what I hear from people that watch it more closely, that he's basically just playing Western big man.
Yeah, which
his role
probably would have been a solid role for him anyway if he didn't get signed.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, from again, another things I hear about, not that we talk too much about like Noah and the N1, but like that whole tournament's been completely fucked over in terms of the fact that like 3 people got injured within like a couple of matches of it starting, so they've had to just completely rearrange everything because one of them was pretty inconsequential, but both for people that do know or care about Noah stuff, like Go Shiozaki and El Hijo Dr. Wagner Jr. have both been were both injured very early on, and so Shiozaki had to be replaced, and then Wagner Jr. got injured just as soon as the tournament started, so basically he's had to forfeit all of his matches. So, and he was probably someone who was going to do pretty well because he's a former world champion there, so yeah, they've had to just book a load of different things on the fly. So that might be part of the reason why Tavion's getting more wins than maybe would be expected.
Are you keeping up with the 5-star at all in Stardom?
To an extent. I mean, I've kind of like gone out with Stardom, like gone out of like watching Stardom regularly because basically new bookers have come in and they suck. And it's just like, yeah, because New Japan bookers suck and Stardom are owned by New Japan, and so their bookers suck as well. Apparently Anna Jay's doing pretty well. Like, she's doing fine. She's not going to win, but like she's doing a fine enough job. And then they just announced something weird, and it's like Natsuko Tora, who's the current like World of Stardom champions, basically pulled herself out of the Grand Prix at the start of it, saying, "Oh, I'm the world champion. I don't." And now she's challenged Tam Nakano, who was in the Grand Prix and is not going to win the Grand Prix, to a title match. So basically, they said, okay, so even though you didn't win the Grand Prix, you just get a title match. And that's going to be the main event of the show, which also crowns the Grand Prix. So basically, it's just undercutting the entire tournament. So, you know, these guys suck at their jobs. Who's ever running Stardom right now?
Yeah, that sucks.
Should they merge with Marigold?
No, I don't know if
I think that's very unlikely. To be fair, Stardom wasn't doing pretty well in the last couple of months of Rossi's ownership either. So I think they just need to rethink a few things.
Why haven't we seen Stephanie Vaquer, by the way?
That's another question as well. Why would WWC such a big rush to pull her out of like her final dates with New Japan and CMLL, or at least until the point where she could have dropped both those titles? Why were they so desperate? She appeared on those 2 Mexico shows they did in WWE, and then they just, you know, now she's nowhere.
Yeah, it's very strange that she's not like, I don't know, maybe she should have been in the yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I think might end up happening.
She might get someone gets taken out and she replaces that person.
And she replaces them, or like, you know, they try to do something where maybe it's down to like Solka and, you know, Jada Parker, and Roxy takes them both out, and she's like, haha, there's nobody. And then it's like, yeah, shut up, we have Julia and we have Stephanie Vaquer. You're screwed. Come no mercy.
Yeah, seems kind of strange.
Because Julia should be heading over soon as well, I think.
Because Julia's last match is Monday.
Yeah, so end of August she should be coming over. So one of two things: either the Gauntlet is just going to have like, you know, going to have like a week or 2 weeks build to fight for the title, and it's just going to be a straight up loss to Roxanne, or something will happen in that Gauntlet where someone else, either Julia or Stephanie Vaquer, wins to take the title off of Roxanne. So
because if they don't debut,
so that could be something somewhat interesting regarding NXT.
If they don't debut either of them like now in the Road to No Mercy, then I think they're just gonna pump the October 1st CW show with like, and here's Julia, and here's Stephanie, and oh shit, Ricky Starks is here, and CM Punk's here.
CM Punk and Randy Orton right the week afterward and all.
By the way, so I will say that just because I said this out loud. I tweeted this, so it's not like I'm saying something just random. Like, I would laugh if they were just like, hey, here's that Ricky Starks CM Punk match we promised you, Chicago. You're just getting it on NXT.
Yeah, that would be kind of funny.
I just think they are the kind of people who would do that. And Punk...
Admittedly, we did get a CM Punk Ricky Starks match in AEW.
But did we get it in Chicago? Remember, Chicago
yeah.
promised the strap match.
They're just gonna do like a random strap match.
No. I think
build.
I think he'll do a random match. I don't think he'll go that far with strap.
Again, it might change my opinion next week, but I kind of think that what they might do is whoever, probably Sol Ruka, goes up against Roxanne, just loses at the pay-per-view. Roxanne cuts a promo either there or the week after and goes, I've beaten everybody. I've even beaten all the people that were like set up to be that they didn't have a chance. There's nobody left on the roster for me to fight. And then that's when Julia or Stephanie Vicker end up popping up. And it's just like, now I am a part of the roster and now that's a different story. And, I think that is more so it's either happening on the debut of the CW or Halloween Havoc. It's more so when one of them ends up winning that. But that's AEW. That's NXT stuff. We got AEW Dynamite left to talk about. But some of the stuff we actually just already talked about. Mercedes Moné and Karshida. Orange Cassidy winning that number 1 spot. The Young Bucks match with the Acclaim, though, ended in a DQ with FTR getting involved. So that's going to be Acclaimed versus FTR to settle who's going to fight the Young Bucks at All In, which I'm assuming is going to be a 3-way. Might not necessarily go that way.
I do not like this stuff.
I'm not the biggest fan.
Like, it's just dull.
I think this sucks. I think the whole scene in AEW right now is just like in dire straits, and it's like the big issue is just like the Bucks are never there or aren't there very often. And they've just been involved in their like EVP storyline, which has been an absolute dud. Like, as I think that everything the Bucks have done this year post the Sting Darby Allin match has been pretty, and it seemed like he was getting off to a hot start with the attack on Tony Khan. Everything since then has been just not gone well at all. I think that they need to have a bit of a hot... And it's amazing, like, because it's a promotion that obviously has a good collection of tag teams, and that was the thing to start, like one of the big building blocks of the promotion early on, but now it's just scattered all over the place. So yeah, I'm not interested in either the Acclaimed or FTR fighting the Young Bucks, or both of them fighting the Young Bucks at Wembley for the title.
Again, something more we'll talk about next week. Any other AEW Dynamite stuff you guys want to run down?
Obviously, Hangman Page beat Jay Lethal pretty comfortably, and I assume that he's still fighting Jeff Jarrett at All In some capacity. They were quite heavy on like vignettes and video packages this week, which was, it's not really like their main thing, but it worked so well that it had the big Will Ospreay and MJF one, which is like several minutes long, just saying their backstory. Had a Mariah May movie where she talks about like killing Tony Storm, writing her eulogy, and they interviewed Mina Shirakawa afterwards, and so we don't know like what side she sits. She's also, Mina Shirakawa's challenging for the Rev Pro Championship on the show the day at Copperbox Arena the day before All In, so we know she's going to be in London for the show, so she might have some involvement there. Then, like, one of the best video packages they've ever done, which was the Bryan Danielson career retrospective thing, which was just like 2 to 3 minutes of just like absolutely like tear-jerking material, which was great. And then they did the best thing was the main event of Swerve Strickland and Wheeler Yuta, because Swerve just literally destroys Wheeler Yuta pretty quickly, pretty comprehensively, just hitting the house call kicks while Daniel Bryan... Oh, he's saying Daniel Bryan, I don't know why at the moment. Bryan Danielson is just a ringside, like, trying to cheer Yuta on, but he's just looking more and more deflated, and then Strickland beats him up to the point there's a referee stoppage. Danielson gets in the ring, clears Strickland away. Strickland says is now going into like the deeply personal thing about mentioning his daughter and like ending his career not by like choice, but by like forcing him to end his career by just beating him so convincingly at the show. And then he hits a house call on Danielson at the end of it as well to leave him laying. And yeah, it was just a they're obviously leaning towards the Strickland, not so necessarily being like, obviously he's leaning heel in the match, but it's very much just in line with Swerve's character. If he does the mind games, he will push the boundaries a little bit further in order to give himself an advantage. So it's not like him turning permanently heel, but he will obviously be leaning heel to a crowd that's going to be super behind Danielson winning the title. Yeah, I think that segment and just like everything they've kind of done over the last couple of months, particularly of just like when I had some initial doubts about making Swerve the world champion when he beat Samoa Joe, I think they've all kind of just been washed away now. I think he is a bona fide like main event star for years to come for AEW. I think he's had an excellent world title reign. I'd say one of the 5 best title reigns AEW have ever had. World title, or I mean by that regard.
I think turning him heel is a better move, especially going into this match with Danielson. I do want to commend Danielson for taking what is, by all accounts, a layup of obviously he's winning here and throwing in the details about the neck surgery and all these things that make you go, oh, fuck, maybe he is just done. Maybe he just loses at Wembley and that's it for him. I think he's done a good job of casting shadows for that, but I still do think he's going to go over strong.
Roderick?
Well, he already did that, didn't he?
I had to. All right. Well, I think that pretty much sums up what we got for the hot tags. We're at about the 2-hour mark too. So, and as always, if there are other topics that you guys want us to talk about, we can loop them into next week. Next week, the game plan, currently, this is what I'm assuming is going to be the case. I do have more wisdom teeth surgery on Tuesday morning. So usually when we record our main events on Tuesday, Wednesday type frames, probably not going to happen next week. And when it comes to AEW All In and, you know, our predictions for that, normally we would try to do that on Wednesday. And then if they announce anything different, we talk about that on the hot tags after the Dynamite episode and all. We're probably just going to have to combine those. And on Friday, do a hot tags plus AEW All In predictions thing, kind of hoping that there won't be a whole lot of hot tags breakdown and we can predominantly just talk about the AEW stuff. But whatever that is, unless something changes about that, then I'll try to let everybody know ahead of time. But that's currently the game plan for that. And then assuming that I'm able to do a post show, we'll have a post show to factor in it, you know, after the pay-per-view and all. But in the meantime, keep checking smark.com. Check around all the other places that you can normally see any kind of information. I have a new post up on What Culture, for instance, for if you're into the more like Fanboys Anonymous side of things and you watched Deadpool and Wolverine, then you know about the anchor beings concept. So I put up a post about 10 people who could be potential anchor beings for the WWE universe. Names like Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are pretty obvious, but I also put out there Michael Cole. He's the voice of WWE, or like Triple H, or Vince McMahon. You know, he's not in the company anymore, but that's the whole point of the anchor beings, is once they are gone, then the universe kind of collapses. And we've been seeing a lot of changes in WWE. A lot of changes for the better, though. So it's a different story. But then again, that's a whole transition for the MCU, too. But check out articles like that and anything else. I'm trying to work on something for Collider that I don't know when that's going to be posted. We'll see. But go to the link tree at amangotree.com. You'll see links to all sorts of different things there. If you follow those accounts or you subscribe to them or you like the account, whatever it might be for those different things, then you'll see all that activity on that front. At Tony Mango on a lot of different things outside of Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous. But follow Rob and Callum too.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. You can check out my link tree and all that stuff, which has things like my work on Fightful, the articles I've done over the past years in WrestleZone, MovieWeb. I've worked at a lot of different places, and my articles are all out there, so that's kind of where you go for that stuff. Of course, stay tuned to Fightful for all the breaking news, such as the Adam Cole stuff we broke down earlier, and more stuff like that. And just keep supporting, and thank you.
You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. You can check out the Power Rankings every Saturday over on smark@moment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances and results. And while you're there, also head over to the Fantasy League, also at wwefantasyleague.com, where all our teams have been picking up points as the weeks have been going on. We're heading towards Baszler Berlin, which is the next rest stop, where we'll lose a member of our team and shake things up a little bit. So follow along, see who is leading the way as we head into Germany.
Okay, everybody. 663 in the bag. Thank you for listening to this episode, and thank you in advance for the next time around. We'll see you then, but for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.